Probable Adventure of the Three Literary Men. When the nomads came to El Lola, they had no more songs, and the question of stealing the golden box arose in all its magnitude. On the one hand, many had sought the golden box, the receptacle, as the Ethiopians know, of poems of fabulous value, and their doom is still the common talk of Arabia. On the other hand, it was lonely to sit around the campfire by night with no new songs. It was the tribe of Heth that discussed these things one evening upon the plains below the peak of Mluna. Their native land was the track across the world of immemorial wanderers, and there was trouble among the elders of the nomads because there were no new songs, while, untouched by human trouble, untouched as yet by the night that was hiding the plains away, the peak of Mluna, calm in the afterglow, looked on the dubious land. And it was there on the plain upon the known side of Mluna, just as the evening star came mouse-like into view, and the flames of the campfire lifted their lonely plumes uncheered by any song, that the rash scheme was hastily planned by the nomads, which the world has named the quest of the golden box. No measure of wiser precaution could the elders of the nomads have taken than to choose for their thief that very slith, that identical thief that, even as I write, in how many schoolrooms governesses teach, stole a march on the king of Westalia. Yet the weight of the box was such that others had to accompany him, and Sippy and Slorg were no more agile thieves than may be found today among vendors of the antique. So, over the shoulder of Mluna, these three climbed next day and slept as well as they might among its snows, rather than risk a night in the woods of the dubious land. And the morning came up radiant, and the birds were full of song, but the forest underneath and the waste beyond it, and the bare and ominous crags, all wore the appearance of an unuttered threat. Though Slith had an experience of 20 years of theft, yet he said little, only if one of the others made a stone roll with his foot, or later on in the forest, if one of them stepped on a twig, he whispered sharply to them always the same words, "That is not business." He knew that he could not make them better thieves during a 2 days' journey, and whatever doubts he had, he interfered no further. From the shoulder of Mluna they dropped into the clouds, and from the clouds to the forest, to whose native beasts, as well as the three thieves knew, all flesh was meat, whether it were the flesh of fish or man. There the thieves drew idolatrously from their pockets, each one a separate god, and prayed for protection in the unfortunate wood, and hoped therefrom for a threefold chance of escape, since if anything could eat one of them, it were certain to eat them all, and they confided that the corollary might be true, and all should escape if one did. Whether one of these gods was propitious and awake, or whether all of the three, or whether it was chance that brought them through the forest unmouthed by detestable beasts, none knoweth. But certainly neither the emissaries of the god that most they feared, nor the wrath of the topical god of that ominous place brought their doom to the three adventurers there or then, and so it was that they came to Rumbly Heath, in the heart of the dubious land, whose stormy hillocks were the groundswell, and the afterwash of the earthquake lulled for a while. Something so huge that it seemed unfair to man that it should move so softly, stalked splendidly by them, and only so barely did they escape its notice that one word rang and echoed through their three imaginations. If. And when this danger was at last gone by, they moved cautiously on again, and presently saw the little harmless Mipt, half fairy and half gnome, giving shrill, contented squeaks on the edge of the world. And they edged away unseen, for they said that the inquisitiveness of the Mipt had become fabulous, and that, harmless as he was, he had a bad way with secrets. Yet they probably loathed the way that he nuzzles dead white bones, and would not admit their loathing, for it does not become adventurers to care who eats their bones. Be this as it may, they edged away from the Mipt, and came almost at once to the wizened tree, the goalpost of their adventure, and knew that beside them was the crack in the world, and the bridge from bad to worse, and that underneath them stood the rocky house of owner of the box. This was their simple plan: to slip into the corridor in the upper cliff, to run softly down it, of course with naked feet, under the warning to travelers that is graven upon stone, which interpreters take to be, "It is better not." Not to touch the berries that are there for a purpose on the right side going down, and so to come to the guardian on his pedestal who had slept for 1,000 years and should be sleeping still, and go in through the open window. One man was to wait outside by the crack in the world until the others came out with the golden box, and should they cry for help, he was to threaten at once to unfasten the iron clamp that kept the crack together. When the box was secured, they were to travel all night and all the following day until the cloud banks that wrapped the slopes of Mluna were well between them and owner of the box. The door in the cliff was open. They passed without a murmur down the cold steps, Slith leading them all the way. A glance of longing, no more, each gave to the beautiful berries. The guardian upon his pedestal was still asleep. Slorg climbed by a ladder, and Slith knew where to find, to the iron clamp across the crack in the world, and waited beside it with a chisel in his hand, listening closely for anything untoward, while his friends slipped into the house. And no sound came. And presently, Slith and Sippy found the golden box. Everything seemed happening as they had planned. It only remained to see if it was the right one and to escape with it from that dreadful place. Under the shelter of the pedestal, so near to the guardian that they could feel his warmth, which paradoxically had the effect of chilling the blood of the boldest of them, they smashed the emerald hasp and opened the golden box. And there they read by the light of ingenious sparks, which Slith knew how to contrive, and even this poor light they hid with their bodies. What was their joy, even at that perilous moment as they lurked between the guardian and the abyss, to find that the box contained 15 peerless odes in the Alcaic form, 5 sonnets that were by far the most beautiful in the world, 9 ballads in the manner of Provence that had no equal in the treasuries of man, a poem addressed to a moth in 28 perfect stanzas, a piece of blank verse over 100 lines on a level not yet known to have been attained by man, as well as 15 lyrics on which no merchant would dare to set a price. They would have read them again, for they gave happy tears to a man and memories of dear things done in infancy, and brought sweet voices from far sepulchres. But Slith pointed imperiously to the way by which they had come, and extinguished the light. And Slorg and Sippy sighed, then took the box. The guardian still slept the sleep that survived 1,000 years. As they came away, they saw that indulgent chair close by the edge of the world, in which owner of the box had lately sat, reading selfishly and alone the most beautiful songs and verses that poet ever dreamed. They came in silence to the foot of the stairs, and then it befell that, as they drew near safely, in the night's most secret hour, some hand in an upper chamber lit a shocking light, lit it and made no sound. For a moment, it might have been an ordinary light, fatal as even that could very well be at such a moment as this, but when it began to follow them like an eye, and to grow redder and redder as it watched them, then even optimism despaired. And Sippy very wisely attempted flight, and Slorg even as unwisely tried to hide. But Slith, knowing well why that light was lit in that secret upper chamber, and who it was that lit it, leaped over the edge of the world, and is falling from us still, through the unreverberate blackness of the abyss.